No, because I want you to hear me when I say with my full fucking chest, if you voted for Donald Trump, I want you out of my life. Because at a base level, I don't care for friends. I don't care for family. Because if I'm going into a future where interracial marriage is even up for debate, I don't want you at my wedding. I don't want you there. If I travel out of state while on my period and my blood condition causes me to start hemorrhaging, and I happen to be in a state where women's health care is so strictly regulated that doctors feel like they can't interfere because any period-related bleeding could be a pregnancy and there's no interfering in that, and I bleed out and die because of the laws that are going to be left up to states' decisions, I don't want you at my funeral. If the Department of Education is defunded and my children can't go to school unless it's at a private institution that we cannot afford, and there's no way to get any assistance in affording this, I don't want you in my kids' lives. And that's just the beginning of it. So honestly, truly, if you voted for Trump, get out of my life.
If you voted for Trump, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't come near me. Don't come near my friends. If you're confused on why people are so angry and heartbroken and grieving, then you probably have no idea what's going on. First of all, because everything is going to be ruled by the Republicans now and they have a conservative court. We're looking at the ACA being repealed. That's the Affordable Care Act. Thanks, Obama. So for people like me who are on the Affordable Care Act, because they can't work a full-time job, they're not going to be able to afford or have access to health insurance, okay? The only way that I can get health insurance is through the ACA. My plan as it is without the subsidy, $400. I pay about $50 for that right now. Because I'm self-employed, I will have no insurance when that is repealed. My medication costs $20,000 per dose. I currently get that through the drug company through a special little thing that only is available if you have health insurance. So please understand that people like me, people in my communities, are going to die. And that's what you have voted for. So, in a few years, when all these policies start going into effect, if you never see me and my family again, it's because we had to fucking move. And it's your fault.
So I've been thinking about what I wanted to say about this for all day. And let me be clear. If you voted for Trump, you are not a good person. Just point blank. This is not about voting for Republicans. This is voting for somebody that's a misogynist, a sexist, a homophobe, a rapist, and it's unacceptable. You voting for him puts the lives and the rights of people like me, my partner, women, the elderly, minorities in danger, and there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to do it. The cognitive dissonance is pretty deafening, and so I really hope that you live with the consequences of what's going to happen the next 4 years. Don't complain, don't bitch, because the country is going to implode and you're going to get exactly what you asked for. So I don't want to hear a damn thing when all those promises absolutely don't come true. And make no mistake, if you are somebody in my life who voted for Trump, you are no longer part of my life. I do not want to talk to you. I do not want to see you. You are no longer welcome in my life. Bye.
2024 election in America was not just an ordinary political disagreement. It became something deeper and personal. It was not just about the economy, It was about values, human rights, morals, and what kind of a country people believe they should live in. So people are losing friends and family, and Trump voters are saying they should not be losing friends over politics. So do you think people should be losing family and friends over politics? Let me know what you think in the comment, all right? Let's get into it.
Hold up, let me get this right. So this week, I have seen so much content that says something along the lines of, don't let politics ruin your friendships. Do not let politics get in the way of your relationships. So much content that shares this sentiment, and I've looked into it genuinely. And from my perspective, I can see across the board unanimously that type of outspeak is coming specifically from either A, somebody who doesn't actively oppose Donald Trump's candidacy, or B, B, somebody who genuinely supports and sympathizes with Donald Trump. And it made me wonder why. Why is it people that hold space for a man like Donald Trump, why is it that those people are also the people having to pitch some sort of disclaimer saying politics shouldn't affect your personal relationships? Could it be because you want to be able to, at some capacity, enable, endorse, and empower a man like that who's done the things he's done into a position of power without suffering the consequences for it? Now, look, I get it. You want to be so disconnected from politics that it doesn't affect your personal lives. However, we have all lived in the same America for the last decade. We've seen and heard the warnings. We've seen and heard people ringing and sounding the bell. You can't ignore the bell, ignore their warnings, ignore their cries, and then expect it to not affect your personal life. You're gonna lose some friends, and with all due respect, rightfully so. Whether or not you can relate to the warnings doesn't matter. Did you listen to them? Did you hold space for them? And did you care for your neighbor the way you care for that man? Because people were telling you, and I'm assuming it's people that look different than you, love different than you, and live different than you in a different place, in a different setting. And I'm assuming it's those people that you can't genuinely, personally relate to that warned you, please do not let a man like that, who does and says the things he does, into a position of power. It threatens my life. It threatens my well-being. It threatens my existence. And you were like, no, it's chill. You're overreacting. You're misled. You're brainwashed. And therefore, you still put that man, regardless of the warnings, into power. With all due respect, I am sorry if some of us aren't as apathetic or nonchalant in our fight against oppression. But I don't think you're going to get away with endorsing him and it not affecting you. Copy.
I am so genuinely at a point where the thought of having to have a conversation with anybody who voted for Trump, still supports Trump, makes me want to die. Like, at this point, it has been proven time and time and time and time again that it was a mistake to vote for him. And they don't admit it. Some people admit it. I'm not going to say that there are not people who are like, okay, this was stupid. But there are so many that are still 10 toes down. 10 toes down on, yep, he's doing great. He's making America great again. Have you checked gas prices? That was one of your things, right? Cheaper gas, cheaper groceries, no more war. Those things mattered to you, right? Yeah, well, he lied to you. Newsflash, she was right. You were wrong. She told you this was going to happen. We told you this was going to happen. Gas is so ridiculously expensive, and it's just going to keep getting worse because, also, newsflash, bombing Iran to help his little buddy he's in his pocket just to cover up whatever Donald Trump has done wasn't a good idea. It was not in the interest of the American people. None of it is. None of our tax dollars are going to anything that actually benefit Americans. And if you aren't sick of it yet, dear God, I'm begging you to wake up. I'm so sick of it. Like, I can't even have a conversation with you at this point if you still support it.
If you're a Trump supporter, just know that there are 4 things that everybody who's not a Trump supporter thinks about you. And so far, you've done nothing to disprove these things. 1, you're uneducated. And I don't mean uneducated in the sense that you didn't go to school and learn to read or do basic arithmetic. I mean, you're uneducated as far as what's going on in the world. You got goggles on, only paying attention to what you want to pay attention to. Dose. You lack empathy. You don't care what happens to somebody else as long as it doesn't happen to you. Imagine for a moment the government started saying, hey, your marriage is illegal. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that? But you don't care that it's happening to gay people as long as it doesn't happen to you. 3, you lack independent thinking skills, meaning you are incapable of forming your own thoughts, opinions, or viewpoints on things. You need pundit talking points from Fox News or whatever that other OAN. You need those people to tell you what to believe. You don't have the ability to look into those claims and maybe think something else. It's a confirmation bias. You live in this bubble and you refuse to step outside of it. 4, and I think this is the most important one. I think this is the one you really need to work on if you have the ability, and that is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the ability to look at a situation and say to yourself, you know what, that's kind of fucked up. That's not right, and you can't do that. So I look forward to all the laughing emoji reactions to this video because the people that I just made these claims about don't have the ability to defend themselves. So if they do so, just put the laughing emoji. So fire up.
I used to date somebody who is now MAGA. Of course, back then, we didn't know what that was. It didn't exist. But there were signs. He could not finish unless he was watching trans corn. And he was also disgusted by gay people and trans people in general, like in his life. Like, these are the reasons why we weren't together for very long. I didn't know, and it slowly became revealed to me. I'm sure he's in ICE now. I'm sure that, he's still hanging on strong to all of that. But yeah, he was really reliant on trans women to get off. And so at the same time, really hating their existence. And I think the reason why MAGA is so involved in trying to literally take away trans lives, it's a kink. Like, they have such a sexual investment in trans lives, and it makes them hate themselves and want to destroy the object of their obsession. And so that's why they are obsessed, because they can't get off without it.
Last week I decided I didn't want to see somebody because they had voted for Trump, and it was such a fascinating social experiment to go into the red pill culture, because the way that he had been informed about why women don't want to date men who support Trump included none of the reasons why I don't want to date men who support Trump. And when he shared the podcast episode that explained his view of why I might think that it's against my values to date someone who supports Trump, which is already problematic. The two reasons were, one, women want to stand against Trump because they want to maintain their female friendships, and women value, this is what this alt-right male podcaster was saying, women value kindness, and Trump is not perceived to be kind. And so that's one reason. It's because we want to maintain our female friendships. And then the other reason was because we want a leader in our partner. And left-leaning women have been brainwashed to see leadership as being visible on social media about global issues like Palestine. And so because we're bio-wired to want leaders, and the left has brainwashed us to tell us that real leaders would post these political perspectives online, if they're not doing that, then they're not a real leader. And so our biology rejects them. It was fascinating. I was this is offensive that you're not just gonna talk to me, a left-leaning woman, about why I don't want to date you. But this has come up a few times, even with my ex. He was close friends with people who would throw America First parties, and I was I don't like that person. For me, my reason is I want to be with a man who's going to stand up to aggressors and abusers. Because the only way that our world heals is for men to actively take a stand in their relationships with other men around what is acceptable behavior toward women. Violence against women, to me, is the root evil of our world. And until men will reinforce to each other what is actually masculine, which is not harming vulnerable people, things won't change. That is the crux, in my mind, of healing the world. And I do think women have power in not partnering with men who are not doing that. And so with my ex, he did not draw lines with men who were cheating, men who were MAGA, men who had, even if he wasn't doing it, he wouldn't draw the line with them. So he's not part of the change. And then with this guy, he was just so far beyond even wanting to intellectually engage with a viewpoint that wasn't his. AKA mine, that is a ripple effect throughout the rest of the relationship. But I'm curious, do you guys date people? If you're a woman, do you date men who support Trump? And how do you get around that? And what do you think about my theory about like what needs to happen and why it's really men drawing lines with men and also women drawing lines with the men in their life, essentially like potentially having to be like, I would rather be celibate for the rest of my life than be with a man who will not defend women. And defending women includes setting boundaries with men who are aggressors toward women. Because like, I'm a woman, so if you're not setting that boundary, you're actually not defending me. Like, it actually becomes that personal. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, is that also how you're thinking about it? And if you're a dude, like if you supported Trump, like how would you justify that to a female partner? Like how would you want her to feel about that as it relates to your willingness to protect her?
In the past, people could sit at the table, vote differently, and still walk away as friends. But now, it feels personal because it touches people's rights, dignity, identity, and even the future. People look at someone who voted for Trump and see someone who said that his racism doesn't bother me, his incompetence doesn't bother me, you know, the rights of other people doesn't bother me. That's why it's becoming more personal. 2024 election was not just about the taxes or the economy. It was about what kind of a country people want to live in and what values they believe matters most. And that's why so many friendships and families have been so affected. Choices have consequences, and the choices that Trump voters made have hurt so many families. Families have been separated, you know. Others are living in fear. Some people have lost their lives, you know. Innocent people have lost their lives. So to them, this is not just about politics. It is a matter of life and even death. At the same time, I've seen so many Trump voters who are now saying that they are being unfairly judged because they believe that they voted for the economy, about the immigration, but they forget that their policies have caused so much suffering. And they were one about those policies, but they ignored them and voted Trump anyway. That's why people find it so hard to even forgive them or even associate with them, because the warnings were there, but they chose to ignore, you know. So they knew what they were doing, you know. They wanted to hurt other people. That's why it's becoming so personal. And that's why America is becoming so divided, because people are not only arguing about policies, you know, they are questioning each other's values, character, and even beliefs. But I tend to believe that these wounds did not just start in the last election, you know. The country has been growing more divided for years, and every election seems to be making those divisions to become even more deeper. What you are seeing now is a real human cost of political division. Real people are losing relationships, you know. Families are struggling to stay together, and communities are finding it hard to trust each other. And the one thing we can't ignore is that elections have consequences. The decisions we make at the ballot box, they affect real life. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.